Hello again, welcome back to the Jukebox, and this is part 2 of my favorite albums of 2022. Thank you so much for the support on last week's video, and I'm definitely looking to drop a few more videos around here in 2023, so feel free to subscribe and stay tuned if you're interested in what we got going on, and let me know in the comments some other topics or artists you guys want me to dive into. Anyways, let's get into the video. I'm gonna hit you guys with some more of my favorite albums of the year, just like last time, and as you might remember, the keyword there being favorite. And similar to last week's video as well, this list is mostly going to be stacked with rap albums, mainly because hip-hop as a whole just had my attention the most this year. No offense to other genres out there though. But first, I wanted to give a shout out to some other projects that came out this year that I think are great. However, they came just short of my favorites. Some of them are because they came out towards the end of the year, or for others, I just didn't revisit them enough after my first listen. So without further ado, let's start off with a couple honorable mentions from 2022. And at number 1, I have King's Disease 3 by Nas and Hit Boy. Now, had this record dropped earlier in the year, this would have easily been in my top 10. Nas, even at his age, dropped a straight lyrical masterclass with this album, and once again proves why he should be rightfully mentioned in the hip-hop GOAT discussion. These guys together are one of the best duos in hip-hop right now, and Hit Boy really came through with some of my favorite production of the year on this album as well. It's a satisfying conclusion to the King's Disease trilogy, and some of the best rap performances of the year are on display here. At number 2, I have Cheat Codes by Black Thought and Danger Mouse. Similar to King's Disease, this is another hip-hop collab project that sees Black Thought and Danger Mouse dropping my favorite underground project of the year. I wasn't too familiar with Black Thought's work outside of the roots with Questlove, but his pen game on here is insane, and the sample-heavy production from Danger Mouse complements his style perfectly. Plus, an all-star feature list with verses from the likes of A$AP Rocky, MF Doom, and Raekwon from Wu-Tang Clan are entertaining standouts as well. Definitely a solid hip-hop album that I think went under the radar for a lot of people this year. And at number 3, I have Her Loss by Drake and 21 Savage. Now, in terms of trap albums, this was definitely one of my favorites from this year. This project sees hip-hop's hitmaker Drake teaming up with one of the year's standout and most consistent acts in 21 Savage to make an absolute banger of an album. Now, I have my issues with the record here and there, but I can't lie that the replay value I've gotten from some of the tracks have been crazy. Overall, it's a solid trap project from Drake and 21 Savage. The album rollout for this was pretty fun to watch too. And thank God this man Drake was able to save his 2022 after dropping whatever this mess of an album was. Alright, on to the main list now, and let's go ahead and start off with a record that came out earlier in the year, but took me a while to get around to for some reason. The first album on the list is Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel Curry. Now, for a lot of hip-hop fans, including myself, Denzel Curry is easily one of the most consistent rappers of the 2010s, and definitely a name often brought up in conversations about rap's underrated MCs. Denzel is an artist I got into back in 2018 after the release of Taboo, and while his other projects over the years were enjoyable, I've been waiting for a record as raw and conceptual as that album 5 years ago. And this year, I think I finally got my wish. Melt My Eyes is easily already one of my favorite projects from Denzel Curry. It's an album that feels like an out-of-world open mic experience where Denzel clears himself from his rap alter egos to deliver some strong personal storytelling and introspective verses throughout the album. There's so many highlights to choose from. Stylistically, it's a great blend of a lot of Denzel's previous sounds and song deliveries. There's tracks like X-Wing that remind me of his laid-back flows on 2019's Zoo, and others like Angels that call back to his cold boom-bap verses on projects like Unlocked. Then there's the whole concept of the record, a self-examination of learning to break down your past perceptions to see a better future for yourself. And if that wasn't ear-catching enough for you, the production will make you think otherwise. The beat selection here is wonderful and creates a unique listening experience fitting for the themes that we find throughout the album. Now, given that there's an almost criminal amount of tracks I enjoyed on Melt My Eyes, if I had to narrow it down to 3, I'd give them to Walkin', Ain't No Way, and Troubles. Great to see a lot more respect being put on Denzel's name after dropping this album, and it'll be interesting to see if he goes further with this style on his next project. Alright, now we're switching up genres for the next album, so let's talk about I Didn't Mean to Haunt You by Quadeca. Quadeca is another artist who I've been a fan of for years now. Most people know about him through his success on YouTube with his styles of rap videos and diss tracks here and there. Now, I came along the wave around 2018 just before the release of his album Voice Memos, and I thought his flows and wordplay were some of the best in the YouTube rap scene. But over the years, Quadeca's style would undergo one of the most drastic changes I think I've ever witnessed. I Didn't Mean to Haunt You is everything I feel Quadeca's sound was building to since his 2021 release From Me to You. A project, while very experimental, I would still mostly consider a rap album. This record takes those small moments of wonder on From Me to You and easily creates one of my favorite listening experiences of the year. This was one of my most anticipated releases of 2022, given I've been tuning into Quad's music for years now, and conceptually he doesn't disappoint once again. Throughout I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, Quadeca takes on the perspective of a ghost reflecting on his past life and stages of grief and how others have been impacted by his absence. The top-tier production by Quadeca himself blends a collection of genres to create this ghostly, out-of-world atmosphere that can definitely be haunting at times. The songs on here are dense and well composed, not only from a songwriting perspective, but the same goes for the instrumentation as well, and I think Quadeca is really onto something special after this album. It's one I could definitely make an entire video about, but my top 3 off I Didn't Mean to Haunt You are Born Yesterday, Fantasy World, and Fractions of Infinity. Definitely another standout album from this year, and again, the artistic growth from Quadeca has been amazing, and what a journey it's been to watch over the years. Alright, the next album on the list is Love for Rent by Smino. So we're back into hip hop now, and there's nothing really bad I can say about Smino. He's an artist I've seen and heard on a few tracks that I've really enjoyed over the years, but I just never really got into his stuff. Thankfully, I didn't pay the price for it this year. Love for Rent is such a fun listen, and it has so much of what I think Smino does best and more. In terms of vocal range and expression, I don't think there's too many current rappers that come close to Smino, and he really put it on show here. On top of his clever wordplay, his delivery really helps to add this infectious flavor to his verses throughout the record. The production really adds to that flavor as well, and I think it's definitely some of the best I've heard Smino on. The features on this album are also top tier. There's solid appearances from J. Cole, Doechii, Lucky Daye, and even surprisingly Lil Uzi Vert, which was actually one of the most unexpected collabs for me, but his verse on Pudgy was great, and he sounded way more comfortable on the instrumental style than I would have thought. Honestly, I think my biggest criticism of this album is that I wish it came out in the summertime. One, I would have been playing it way more than I already have, and 2, Octobers are usually for the weekend for me. But nonetheless, Smino did his thing on this album, and my top 3 tracks off Love for Rent would go to 90 Proof, Pudgy, and Lee and Lovey. Alright, now the last album is gonna be probably one of the most critically acclaimed records of the year. The last project we're gonna talk about is The Forever Story by J.I.D. Now, I can make a separate video on how entertaining I think J.I.D is as an artist. He's easily on another echelon compared to a lot of modern rappers with his vocal talent and lyricism at the forefront of his arsenal. Most fans of the Atlanta MC by now were waiting for the album that would put J.I.D into a more prominent status in hip-hop, and I think they finally got it this year with The Forever Story. This album is definitely J.I.D's most personal to date, rapping about his underdog come up in the rap game while reflecting on his upbringing and family dynamics throughout his life. And despite this being his 3rd solo album, it feels like a perfect origin story for J.I.D as he takes the listener into his life before rapping and his journey to the top of the game. This album to me is unmatched with his other projects. The Never Story and DiCaprio 2 are still great, don't get me wrong, but The Forever Story is on another level and a solid step up from J.I.D. For starters, one thing I like here compared to his last solo project is how much he lets his vocals shine in the spotlight. Tracks like Cody Blue 31 are a perfect example of how much versatility he could bring to a song, and if he wants to sing, the man can sing. The beat selection this time around is also another highlight for me compared to other projects. There's a lot of memorable tracks that I go back to, not only for the insane verses from J.I.D, but also the phenomenal production from Christo as well. I swear this duo is another rapper-producer combo in hip-hop made in heaven, because they have not missed on a collab yet. Favorite tracks off this album for me are Surround Sound, Can't Punk Me, and 2007. Easily a top 3 rap album of the year for me, and I think J.I.D comfortably rounded off a pretty successful year for Dreamville, and he definitely cemented his name as an MC to be respected in rap with this album. And there you have it. Those were my favorite albums of 2022. It's been an amazing year for music, and I'm already hyped for 2023. Make sure to hit me with some of your favorite releases from this year and subscribe to stay tuned for what we got coming next year. Definitely be on the lookout for a Grammys prediction video coming soon, cause there is quite a lot going on there. But I'll leave it at that for today. Feel free to leave a like and follow me on Instagram and Twitter to stay updated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.
All the small things about being broke, I never got to notice. I took everything for granted when the moment was slow motion. Got into a fender bender, whip so broken it was total. Now this sound like I don't appreciate what they pay me, but all the days